We give, not so that we can keep the lights on, but rather because having the lights on means we can be together. We give not so that we can have the heat on, but rather because we recognize that not all of us have heat. We give not to pay the minister or the staff, but because having a minister and staff to challenge and encourage us transforms our lives. We give not because we're obligated to, but because through our giving, this community offers us meaning and support. We give, in short, because it makes church possible. We give because the church helps to make all of us together possible. This morning's offering will be gratefully received. May it be joyfully given. I know what you're thinking, because right now I'm thinking the same thing. Actually, I've been thinking it ever since I got here. Why, oh why, didn't I take the blue pill? Yeah. I'm tired. Tired of this war, tired of fighting, I'm tired of the ship, eating the cold, eating the same goop every day. If I had to choose between that and the Matrix, I'd choose the Matrix.
Poem in a Time of Peril by Barbara Road. Of course truth is hard. It is a rock. Yet I do not think it will fall upon me and crush me. I do not think they can hammer it to bits and stone me. Help me place the rock in the strong current of these rushing waters. I must climb upon it. I must know how truth feels. When I plunge naked into the bright depth of these waters, I must know how truth feels. When I am swept away by the cold fury of these waters, I must know, with my whole being, how truth feels. I shall remember how truth feels. I praise the rock. I praise the river. I fear the drought more than death by water. Please rise in body or in spirit as we all sing the sermon hymn number 1024, When the Spirit Says Do. Now we're going to sing 4 verses. Do, sing, hear, do. Kyle will remind you which word we're on. We'll start with do, 1024. Let's go.
To
We've come to the table, had a little wine and appetizers in our readings and rituals, and now it's time for the main dish. I thank Claire Callahan, Eric Davis, and Maureen Darcy for sharing their stories about Revelation with us today.
Good morning. So I have to start with a confession. If I had been among you in the pews 20 years ago, listening to what I'm about to tell you, my 22-year-old self would have viewed myself right now as a complete lunatic. I would have thought that everything I was saying was complete baloney. I was definitely also, if I'm honest, never going to be in church on a Sunday. So it's never going to happen. Unless it was a wedding, I didn't set foot. But that being said, something happened to me, and it changed everything. So again, my 22-year-old self didn't know what life was about to hand me. I had some of the two roughest years probably in my life, and a few years later, I found myself in pretty much the deepest despair, the deepest misery. I was broke. I didn't have a job I liked, nor did it pay me well. I was so broke I actually had to move back home, which was very terrible. So, that being said, I can actually pinpoint two things. Number one, Carl Sagan. I saw the movie Contact. I've always been a sci-fi fan, loved Star Wars. The movie Contact spoke to me in a way that intellectually I could actually put a foot in spirituality and science and see how they could actually live together. I read the book after that. I devoured everything I could. So that was truly Hollywood, I can say, started it. But then my parents had developed a spiritual practice after I had moved out of the house, and they shared something with me, and they gently gave me a challenge. They'd given me many challenges over the years, but this one was actually particularly helpful and honestly changed everything. My parents had developed a spiritual practice whereby they would pray to their God, a Judeo-Christian God I didn't share a belief in, but that they would ask for signs. And they would identify signs that were meaningful to them so that God could talk to them. So I knew I wasn't going to be able to say, God or Jesus, come give me a sign, because that just didn't work in my world. So I was willing to settle for the universe after seeing Contact. It gave me a place to believe. So my parents had said, it could be a symbol, it could be an animal, it could be a poem, it could be music, it could be anything, but focus on that and and start paying attention and let the universe actually start speaking to you. And sure enough, it did. And again, I say this in complete, again, 20 years ago, completely incredulously, I would have thought I was on drugs. But little things started happening. That first wave of signs were actually through turtles, believe it or not, symbols of turtles. They'd appear on trucks. They would be dropped into conversations. I remember seeing a dead turtle once and thinking it was like the end of the world. Like, oh my God, now the universe is really speaking to me, and I've blown the whole thing. A few years later, going through some tough times, it was actually through my home stereo and my car stereo and a song by Collective Soul that I didn't even like, but my stereo would just start turning on to the song, Heaven Let Your Light Shine On. I can't explain these things. And again, a foot in science, being a healthy skepticist. Is that right, a skepticist? Yes. Skepticism and you're a skepticist. Thank you for nodding, Sandra's telling me I'm right. Okay, good. That being said, these things started happening to me that I couldn't explain. I couldn't ignore them. And even though at the time I didn't know what they all meant, I knew I had to start paying attention. And I knew I wasn't alone. And that was huge. And so in recent times, the universe, and I know this sounds crazy, has been communicating to me in the symbols of narwhals. Who here knows what a narwhal is? Okay, a fair amount, that's great. Narwhals are actually whales that live in the Arctic, and they have very long, yes, that's right, they have long tusks to help them break through the ice. So imagine my surprise when all of a sudden narwhals started appearing in my life. Very strange. So again, such coincidence, I couldn't deny it, I couldn't ignore it. I don't always know what it means. But my challenge to you is the challenge my parents gave me think of something. Think of a symbol, whether it's an animal, maybe a flower, maybe a song. God knows, I hope it's not that Collective Soul song. It's not a bad song, I guess, but I just, really, of all the songs, like, does it have to be one you don't like? Anyway, again, you don't know when the universe is going to be speaking to you, as long as you're open to it and willing to consider what it's asking you. Think about that. Think about what would happen, and then have the confidence to share it here with our congregational family. And again, maybe over a beer or wine or several, I can tell you more stories, some of the crazy things that have happened to me. But again, as somebody being skeptical and having gone through those kind of dark nights of the soul, having the universe speak to me when I really needed it has given me faith that I never thought was possible. So thank you.
Tough act to follow. When I was first approached about this talk, I'm not sure that testimony is the right term for this when one is inside a UU church. I reflected on the word revelation. My thought was that it is equally a not terribly UU notion. And yet, what then came to mind was a bit of a riff on the word, the notion that it is about when one revels in that which has been revealed. For me, those relevant episodes are inevitably not just points of inflection, but sudden instances of growth, of improvement, or an expansion of my understanding. Now first a caveat. I have been fortunate in my life not having had to deal with the kinds of dramatic or traumatic events that some among us have. Therefore, I do not have reflections and revelations to share that come as triumphant emergence from such an event. Mine are rather pedestrian, but I hope that they can add to the considerations of this topic. The first that comes to mind chronologically was when I came to mind. That moment when my childhood consciousness was replaced by a greater understanding, one that I knew instantly, was the revelation of the sudden dawning of my adult, or maybe more adult, mind. The first child psychologist, Piaget, laid out a series of stages of cognitive development, evolution really, and the signal moment for me was that to which he refers when one leaves behind the child's mind. I remember exactly where I was at 13, riding in the passenger seat of our car with my mom, driving east on 75th Street in Indianapolis, just a few blocks from our house. I vividly remember the view of the houses in a nearby subdivision. We lived in the woods. Just at the top of a hill, or what passes for a hill in Indianapolis, I thought to myself, of myself. It was the flash of understanding that, hey, this is a different way of seeing and understanding the world. This is cool. About 5 years later, as an undergraduate, when I read Piaget for my Psych 101 class, the notion resonated instantly. The second of what might be called eureka moments was also during my undergraduate years. I had left the cocoon of suburban Indianapolis and went 650 miles away to college at the University of Virginia. My mother will tell you it was 648 miles door to door. Equal to the leap of faith needed to go that far away to school was the decision to jump into a fairly specific and demanding undergraduate program, architecture, and among other things learn right away what the term all-nighter meant. While there was the possibility to transfer if I guessed wrong, it was a risk to go that far, to bet the ranch on something that, frankly, I wasn't sure I was going to be good enough at, or like enough, to make my life's work. But at 18, 6 weeks in, I was suddenly struck with the revelation that, guess what? I had chosen the right place and the right thing to study. I knew in that instant that, yes, I had found the right home for the next 4 years, and the right thing to do while I was there and thereafter. I knew that I had both the want to and the can do that it would take. I can take you to the exact spot where I was, walking along the north sidewalk on University Avenue from the shopping area, unimaginatively called the Corner, back toward Jefferson's Rotunda, right by the church at the bend in the road. The rush of happiness and excitement, the vision of the rest of my time there and beyond, suddenly unfolding in my imagination, was exhilarating. The third revelation that comes foremost to mind happened just a half a dozen years later. After a gap year at home, saving money for grad school, I started at UIC, but before the fall semester, I actually started grad school in their summer study abroad program in Versailles in suburban Paris. Before moving to Chicago, the first transit system I learned was not the L, but Le Métropolitain. After the sheltered upbringing in Indy, and an equally cloistered 4 years in Charlottesville, we did a program just around the corner from Louis XVI's castle in Versailles. And then, free travel. Leaving behind the friendly confines of the Ile-de-France, we headed out on our separate ways for 2 more weeks on our own. Eurail passes in hand, or in a hidden pouch tucked in the trousers actually, along with one's passport. One of my stops ended up being the impossibly well-scrubbed town of Bern, Switzerland. After a night in the planet's cleanest youth hostel, I walked up the hill, an actual Swiss-style hill this time, and lingered at the top to overlook the city. Quite entirely by coincidence, I ran into someone I'd gone to high school with, 6,000 miles away, and they were taking an even bigger leap of faith by taking a whole year to wander around Europe. It was right after leaving them, there on the hilltop, overlooking the city, that it hit me. I could do this. Me, Opie from Indiana, at a magnificent mountain Belvedere, by myself, can handle being this far detached from my safety net, one that I also then realized I'd relied upon far too much in the past. I was happily ready for that not to be the case anymore. Now mind you, these things are relative. My wife Suzanne left the relative safety of the U of C behind to venture 2+ years on her own in Cairo, and not entirely in the nicer bits either. But for me, that hilltop revelation in Bern, 2 years before meeting her, but that's a whole other one of these talks, was another true revelation. At each one of these inflection points in the curve of my life, the sudden onset of a new understanding was like stepping timidly into a hotel pool and realizing that, no, this time it wouldn't make my teeth chatter, but instead would be not just manageable, but enjoyable. A pool out of which I wouldn't want to step anytime soon. And yet we always come upon more, don't we? Meeting and joining with a mate, having children, having one of those children leave home, proof that for every rule there is an exception, the revelation that what may be a good thing for them could be bittersweet for me. Which gets us to the end of the story and, or so I am led to believe, one's own answer to the final question. Is it just like turning off a light switch? Or is there something beyond, yet to be revealed?
Parker Palmer says that before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truth and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody and what values you represent. Of course, that would mean that I hear something when I listen, that I know truth, and that my values are clear and succinct. But really, that is a lot to ask. My revelations as a human being are continuous, back and forth, evolving and floating in that dreaded gray area. How I miss the black and white clarity of Catholicism. I knew everything, and the publics, that was everyone else who went to public school, didn't know a thing. Now, my earliest memory of a mature and reflective revelation came rather early in life, but gently, like a calm sea wave making its way to shore and covering the sand before slipping back. I was on my back deep in the pine barrens of New Jersey, hiding from a parent, looking up at the stars and a crescent moon, and I became overwhelmed with the belief that I was clearly on the wrong planet. I must be here by mistake. I was left behind by the mothership, and they would soon realize I was missing and come find me. I still believe that sometimes. Revelation can be like peeling an onion. In my journey towards self-discovery or enlightenment, I peel off each layer, revealing yet another covering of the inner core. Sometimes the peeling of the onion, the peeling of layers that mask the core at the center, results in a lot of tears. There are many tricks and distractions I can employ to ease that burning sensation and stem the crying, like turning on cold water. Just look on Wikipedia. But perhaps you prefer to use a food processor. Revelation can be like opening a present. I know I'm getting closer to something special as I remove the ribbon and the wrap and carefully peel off the tape because I want to reuse the wrapping paper. After carefully folding the wrapping paper and setting it aside along with the ribbon for future rewrapping, I open the box and the treasure is revealed. Sometimes it's one of Nana's knitted sweaters for which she never used a pattern and combined yarn colors based on what was left over from another project. Perhaps you choose to rip into the gift with no worry about preserving the package and getting to the goal more quickly. Revelation is like receiving that secret note passed to me in class by a special someone. It's an 8.5 by 11 line paper, note written in pencil, and it's been folded repeatedly into an infinitesimally small packet that allows the note to get past the teacher's roving eyes. The note goes up and down the rows or across the aisles and it finally reaches me. Sometimes I read the note. Sometimes I was too afraid to read what it said, threw it in the wastebasket on my way out the door. Revelation can touch me like that gentle lapping ocean or smack me down like Katrina. I no longer wonder about the source or the stimulation that alters my world. But my world is altered over and over again. The most recent revelation I had was a dream I shared with my roommate, Sandra. I woke up crying, sobbing really, and I told her about my dream. This was just a few weeks ago. It was about all the people and animals gathered together in one place. I remember the Pope, Mrs. Pope Francis, holding hands with the Ayatollah in a Jewish synagogue. I remember children running around, coming up to everybody in this big, huge Cubs stadium maybe, saying, "Thank you, thank you." And then I realized I don't have to be right or convince anyone that I'm right or persuade them to see my side or gain approval for my thoughts and beliefs. I can just be and allow everyone else in this great gathering to just be. I don't need to protest or fight for justice or march and carry signs. Instead, I can pick up litter, recycle, feed the hungry, work at the food pantry, clothe the poor, work at the economy shop. I can learn to live a sustainable life. I can learn to love. So that was this great dream. But reality hit me much later. If I am me and you are you, and you are doing harm to humans and other living things on this planet that we live on, shouldn't I do more than just be me and carry on in my corner of this world, being the best I can be and promote loving kindness? Is it okay to allow you to be you? Or do I need to fight your beliefs and practices? Silence is all that comes to me. No great revelation yet. I'm going to have to wait. Try to be aware, try to be present, and listening for some calling or answer. When the Matrix movie came out in 1999, and then there were 2 sequels in 2003, I was certain I had taken the red pill to know the truth. I knew that taking that red pill meant that I was learning the ultimate truth, and that is why everything in the world was so weird to me, because that was the Matrix. Now, some years later, I view the movie scene very differently. So I meet with this wonderful and wise man, Morpheus, and if you didn't see the Matrix, maybe you remember Mod Squad. He was a link on the Mod Squad. So he shows me 2 pills, one red and one blue, and he asks me to make a choice between truth or blissful ignorance. My responses today Might be something like, is that all you've got to offer? Or, I prefer to take my chances and I refuse to make a choice and just walk away. Now please rise and body your spirit and sing our closing hymn, I Know I Can, which is an insert in your order of service.
Life does not call us merely to do over and over again what we've already done. Nor does it call us to act out as puppets already the roles assigned to us. No. In the midst of a situation which is itself ever-changing, we are free to bring into realization new relationships of understanding and goodwill and new acts of courage.
Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and stakes are very high. Take your courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone.
Though we extinguish the chalice here, we carry its light of truth and warmth with us in our hearts wherever we go. Carry the flame.
This is a song about a revelation I had about what true love really is, which is settling for less and compromising.